What is racism? It seems like a simple question, especially when you're a kid. But as we're about to see, through the really powerful words of Dr. Shungu Magadza, the answer isn't some neat little definition. It's a journey, a whole lifetime of questions and shifting understanding. It all kicks off with this one question, right? Four simple words that a lot of us probably asked when we were young. But the path to really getting it? Well, that's a long road. And every stage of life seems to peel back another layer, showing you something new and way more complex than you thought. So this timeline right here, this is going to be our map. We're going to follow these key moments in one person's life and see how that question, what is racism, totally transforms from the innocence of a little kid to the wisdom you only get through decades of experience. Okay, so let's jump right in at the very beginning, childhood. That first kind of confusing moment when you start to realize, wait a minute, the world doesn't treat everybody the same? You can really feel the gap here, can't you? The child asks this very direct, very real question, and his mom, she responds with love, trying to protect him, but she completely sidesteps the question itself. So it hangs in the air, unanswered, and that almost makes it feel heavier. And just 2 years later, wow, the question is not abstract anymore. It is intensely personal and painful. This isn't about defining a word now. It's about trying to understand why he's being excluded, why he's being targeted, and the silence that comes after, that becomes the shared burden. And this personal story points to a much bigger clinical reality. Researchers have confirmed that the impacts of racism don't wait until you're an adult. They start really young, and they can create this deep sense of fear and confusion that just rocks a child's feeling of safety and belonging in the world. So as we move from childhood into being a young adult, the experiences, they tend to get sharper, more confrontational. And all those feelings that didn't have a name before, well, they start to pile up. This is such a pivotal moment. The silence he gets from the police is a totally different kind of silence than the one from his mother. It's not protective. It feels like an accusation. And it leaves a mark, this lingering feeling that he just can't put his finger on. So what is that feeling? Well, it turns out we now have a term for it. That unnamed feeling is what psychologists call racial trauma. It's basically the sum total of all the emotional and psychological wounds that racism inflicts over time. And it's not just from things that happen directly to you. It can come from witnessing it or even from the experiences of generations before you. And when you look at these common symptoms, you can connect the dots right back to that experience with the police. That feeling of being constantly on edge, that's hypervigilance. The worry that it will happen again, anxiety. Replaying the event in your head over and over, those are intrusive thoughts. These aren't just vague bad feelings. They're recognized symptoms of real trauma. But here's the thing. This kind of trauma doesn't just come from big, obvious, one-off events. It also builds up from the constant, subtle, and sometimes totally invisible weight of the systems all around us. I mean, what a deep question for an 11-year-old. It gets right to the heart of the problem, doesn't it? How do you pin down something that feels like it's everywhere and nowhere all at once? How do you possibly measure a look or a silence? And here's one way to think about that. You've got your overt racism, the really obvious, in-your-face stuff like slurs or hate crimes. That's easier to identify. But then you've got covert racism, the kind that's woven into our systems, like a school curriculum that just ignores huge parts of history. That is so much harder to measure, but its impact is just as real, adding more and more to that accumulating weight. And right here, the focus makes a huge shift. It's not just about his own past anymore. It's about the future of his family. The fear is no longer just his to carry alone. He's asking, is this cycle of questions and pain just going to keep going? And once again, this very personal fear has a clinical name: intergenerational trauma. It's the understanding that the effects of racism, the stress, the ways people cope, the unanswered questions, they don't just vanish. They can actually be passed down from parents to their children. So after decades of just asking questions, something really critical happens. The whole approach changes. He stops looking to others for answers and starts finding the power to define his own truth. This is the turning point. Did you catch that change in the verbs? He goes from a passive word, asking, to these incredibly active ones: naming, teaching, resisting. This is not someone giving up. This is someone taking back control, reclaiming their own story. It's a move from being a victim of racism to being an active force against it. And these three actions, they create this incredible path forward. Naming the trauma makes it real and solid. Teaching takes that pain and turns it into knowledge you can share. And resisting turns all that knowledge into real-world action. Psychologically, this whole process, creating meaning out of something terrible, is a super powerful way to heal and build resilience. But even after finding this sense of purpose, the journey isn't over. The questions don't just disappear, they change. And so do the people asking them. Can you believe that? After an entire life that has been fundamentally shaped by this reality, a friend asks if it even happened. This question just shows what a profound disconnect there can be. It implies that trauma is just some interesting topic you can decide to bring up one day, instead of a constant force that has shaped who you are. And this suggests that maybe this final question isn't actually about trying to understand. Maybe it's about protecting the questioner's own comfort, their own version of the truth. It's a final, painful reminder that even after you've spent a lifetime finding answers for yourself, the burden of having to explain your reality to others, that might never truly go away.